makes the page dynamic, right? So Bootstrap's JavaScript link that we add there, the file that we add there, makes sure that your page becomes responsive. When you click on something, you know that toggle, it keeps toggling the toggleable icon there. When you click on that icon, it shows all the menu bar items. Everybody understanding what is going on? Kindly close your laptops. You will not need laptops for the next 10 to 15 minutes. Please close your laptops. Please understand, you will be working on creating the front end for the rest of all your semesters till your final year, and if you get selected as a full stack developer by any company, you will be working on that as well. So please focus, do not discuss. Okay. So HTML, CSS, Bootstrap. Then we learned JavaScript. Do we all remember how we added JavaScript? Yes, using script tag you can add at the top, script open, script close, inside that you can actually write your JavaScript code. But if you want to add an external JavaScript file, you could still do script and then src, give that. What is the interesting thing or the interesting difference between the link tag and script tag? Link, when you add at the top of the page or wherever you add, you have to have a end link tag. True? No. Good. Don't fall for it. So link is a empty tag, self-closing. Whereas your script tag, you must close it. Script src equal to whatever, and again make sure you close it. So that is how we used to add the scripts, right? So that was all very client side and very simple. Next came how JavaScript moved into the server part. I said we need to bring, now that JavaScript is working in the browser, I said we need to bring JavaScript outside of the browser, right? So what did we install to get JavaScript outside of the browser? Some of you here in the front are saying, at the last there, what did we install to make sure that we can get JavaScript working outside of the browser? So we installed Node.js, knowing that we installed Node.js to make sure that we get JavaScript running outside of the browser also. Then we started creating server.js and things like that, where what would happen? You would have to, what did we do to get the server up and running? Which module is used to make sure or to get our HTTP server, please? Which module, meaning what did we require to get our server dot HTTP? Very good. So we got a HTTP module at the top. We said let HTTP equal to, and then we said require HTTP. Then like one of your friends here is saying, on that HTTP we said create server. We got a server. Then we said server dot listen, right? Just go through the old code, not now. Whenever you find time, check to see how far we have come. In regular academia, you have your UTs and your assessments and assignments and unit tests like and what else, mids and all. So you go back and refer everything because they conduct exams. In our case, we don't have that. All we do is practice coding, right? So please make sure that whenever you find some time, check all the old exercises. So that's how we came to Node.js and we started creating our own server. Then I said we should not have to go over all the pains of creating our own server because Node.js, the whole thing is open source. Now guys, one of the very important thing is many differences that are there between other frameworks and other libraries and other technical stacks and MERN stack is open source. That's really big. Because you guys have always been using free stuff when it comes to HTML, CSS, everything is free. It seems like it's not a big deal, right? But in our times, it was very difficult for us to get a server, to get anything installed. So there would be a paid version of it. Oracle was ruled out. It fetches all the files, index, about us, home, many things like that, contact us. So using light server, we did that. Now, in the last class, I introduced you to, so that was light server and all those, that was all front-end, meaning the HTML files. You can get the code anywhere, but knowing which will be the question that will be asked in the interview or how do you approach a certain particular thing and why that code has to be written is big. So please understand that. So the last class, before last class, we looked at the front end part, be in HTML pages, static pages, how they'll be fetched and all. Then I said that it's not just about displaying HTML pages. Sometimes you have to take information from the user, store it in a database. You have to get information from the database and display it in the front end. And I said, how do we do that? I said Node.js comes to our rescue again. You can create our own servers and work on that. That is the back-end part, which Express.js comes in very handy. So last class, we looked at Express.js. we installed Express.js like in any other node module, and we started using Express.js to as that middleman, as that middle person that goes and gets information from somewhere. As we did not cover, or as we did not touch MongoDB yet, I just told you what the endpoints are, meaning where the handshake happens. I showed you just a plain, I think, root route, right? Just a forward slash and one more, I think. We did an exercise on that. What we are going to do today is we are going to create proper endpoints where the front end is going to hit, not the hit, but touch the back end, right? So now what are those endpoints? Where is the front end going to touch the back end? First, let's take for example, displaying some information for the user. Let's say it could be information, let's say these are MSET results, or these are your, exam results. So you are fetching from database and displaying, right? So that is just simple get, right? You're just getting information from somewhere and displaying. There's nothing much. There's a request sent. The middleware takes care of the request, goes and fetches information from the database, sends it to the front end. And what does it write that information on? It writes it on response object. Again, I repeat, this is uniform, this is universal, meaning whether you are working on PHP, whether you are working on JSP or servlet, I repeated it in the last class as well. Whichever language, whichever stack you take, there's a request that is being sent from the client. The middleware takes that request, goes and fetches the information, writes it to the response and sends that response. In some cases, it is sent as XML format, other languages. In our case, in Merge stack, how is the response written, please? In what format? JSON format. Very good, right? Very lightweight JSON format, the response. So if you are asking, you are sending a hall ticket number to your Express.js. Express.js is going to take that hall ticket number and get information from the atlas, get all the details, write it on in the JSON format, key value, this is a hall ticket number, this one, in maths, in physics, in chemistry, whatever, all key value pairs written onto the response and sent back to the front end. Front end reads it and presents it in whichever way, tabular format, right? So there is one get. The next thing is whenever somebody is trying to register, that would be post, right? We are clear about it. You post. When posting, you don't want to display the person's, whatever the person with email address, everything in the URL. Very important difference between get and post. Get displays whatever is being sent from the user, right? The question mark there at the top, in the query string that is called, you display the hall ticket number of the person if you are fetching the information. Whereas in case of post, you are sending 4 or 5 details, right? Nothing will be sent there. So if interviewer asks you, give me a few differences between the get and post request, then you must say get is open. You see whatever you are sending. Let's say hall ticket number, let's say user ID, whatever in the URL you will see that. But in case of post, it gets returned to the request's body, not to the URL. So when it is returned to the request body, the middleware will use its brain and then code in some way to read the request body, take it. So it will not be displayed in the URL. Next class, when I ask you what is the difference between get and post, this is what I expect you to tell me. The get request get displayed. Whatever we are sending along with the request get displayed in the URL. Whereas for the post, it is written onto the request body and sent. So now the request body is there in the middleware. It should, or in the backend, the Express.js. It should read it, get the information, display. In case of registration, what will we have? Username, password, all that. It could be sensitive information. So all that information is not sent as get, but as post. We'll see all that now. Okay. Now then put. Last session, I remember. I think Shrikant sir asked that question. What's the difference between put and what was the other one? Post. Any thoughts, everybody? Anybody knows? There are many differences actually. We'll look at it. See, one very big thing about put is whatever data you send, if the data is there in the database already, it will update it. If it's not there, it will create new. Okay? Whereas, put and update, In case of update, it will just update. If the record is not there, it will not create it. But in case of put, if it's already there, it updates it. We'll check all that. We'll check it at a very high level, please, okay? Because we don't have, this is the penultimate session, meaning last but one session. In the next, this Saturday, whatever session we are going to have, that will be the final FSD class for this semester for you. in embedded learning. Okay. So the last session that is going to be on Wednesday and then Friday, I'm sorry. So this Wednesday and Saturday. This Saturday, whatever session we are going to have, that is going to be the last session. So we have one more session and this session, not penultimate, but you know, last but 2 sessions, right? So today we look at these all activities, like how do you send a get, post and all at a very high level. We'll not go inserting everything because we don't have the database yet, right? Then how to read from a JSON, which we have been doing from the beginning. The same thing, we'll do it a little in a different way, in a more polished way. Done? So what are we learning today? We are trying to see how we can use Express for different types of methods, right? For different types of methods like get, post, update, delete also, you know. So like I said, in case of get, you get information, send. In case of post, you send it along with the request body. It takes and stores it in the database, responds back saying done, I have created the user. In case of delete, whatever user ID you give, it's going to go and delete. Now this doesn't mean that Express has the intelligence to automatically delete the record or do anything. It's us who still have to write the code. You must be thinking, ma'am, what's the big deal? Why can't I call everything as a post? If I have to write the code, why can't I call everything as post? Guys, I don't know how many of you read the response status codes, right? So based on what kind of method you are using, you will get the appropriate responses also, response statuses. If you are creating a new user, it will be 201. If you are just using a simple get and getting information, it is 200. You all know that, right? Then if it is everything is fine, usually 200. If the file is not found or there is some problem, 401. If there is an internal error, what is a code for internal error? File not found is what then? What is 401? Nobody read it? What is 500? Nobody read it? Did I share the link with you guys? I don't think I did. I'll share it. I shared the global installation and local installation and all those links, right? I think this is one thing that I forgot. I'll share. But let's get coding. Let's get into coding, and I don't want you all to start off as yet. If you are talking to your friends and working, then I would not appreciate it, please. If you're going to focus what I'm working in class and then replicate it on your side, I'm fine with that. But make sure you understand what is happening. Okay? So the agenda for today is, right? First we'll look at Express.js methods, right? Meaning we are not going to go and look at each of these, but I'll just tell you what all are available. Then we look at, do we all know Thunder Client now? How many of you have Thunder Client installed? Could you please raise your hand? All of you there at the last? Thunder Client is installed? If it's not installed, please go ahead and install. I'll show you how in the extension section, right? Express.js methods. Then we'll look at a little bit about middleware of Express.js, and then we'll work on a little bit about an exercise, right? And then we'll move on to MongoDB Atlas, right? And if time permits, we will connect to Atlas from Express.js using up to, if time permits, MongoDB client or Mongo client, not MongoDB client. MongoDB client or Mongos. I'm not too sure if we'll have time for all this, but we'll try to wrap up at least till here. Understand Atlas and how MongoDB is, right? Now everybody, let us go. Here we are in my in-class folder. People at the last, please focus. Just 2 more sessions and we will be done, please. Right? So I'll just say new folder and I'll say day 16. Right? Here, I'm going to create again another new folder for today and I'll say Express methods. Done? What do I do to create a node project, please? How do I create a node project here? npm init, very good. npm init, right? Control++. I do not mind any of these. I just want it to be a default one. So it should have created my package.json. Done, right? So what is the step 1, please? Create day 16, was it? Day 16 folder. Inside that, create express. Please do not use spaces and special characters and all that, please. Then you open command prompt at this folder. Done? Now, once it is open, we do npm init, and once it is done, open the folder in VS Code. There. So I have my, how do we open our folder in VS Code? Code space dot opens the current folder in VS Code for us. So I have now opened the folder in VS Code. Now I know it's going to be a JS server file, right? So server.js. Now what is the first thing that we do when we create the backend part? Meaning when the front end is sitting in the backend, we want all the endpoints, right? So what is the first thing? I'll be going a little quick. Okay, first import packages. We don't call them libraries. Then once you import, you have the server ready. Then you make sure server is ready, and then make sure it is listening at a port. And I prefer 4000 because React CRA runs on 3000. I prefer 4000, up to you. So this is what we are supposed to do. So import packages. What packages do we need? This is the front end hitting the back end, right? So we need what? Express.js. Now who can tell me how do I install Express.js in my Node project? How do I install Express.js in this one? npm install express. Very good. Or I'll keep it short, npm I express. So where should I check to make sure it installed properly and everything looks okay? Any package that I install in Node, where does it get installed? Where do I see it? You see that now I have Node modules. I see it in package.json. Here I go. Express package.json. Done? So in package.json I have express and the version. Now that I have express, I'm going to go and say I'll get express, quickly do a require, right? If it were inbuilt HTTP or FS or one of those modules, I would not have to install anything. But this is another module, so I have to install. I got the express. Now I need an instance of this express, right? Everybody, whenever you're working on code, right? Try to make your code look like it is written by a person who's good at coding. Don't make the code look like it is written by somebody who is very amateur, right? So follow industry standards. You must be thinking, what's the big deal? I'll just say A or S or something like that. No, industry standards say it is an application. It's a backend application, right? So app. We use app, and what are we trying to do now? We are going to get an instance of Express. So import packages is done. The app is ready. Now what should I do? Make sure it is listening, right? App.listen. Which port should it listen at? Will this work? Don't worry. If there is something that's not going to work, we'll make sure it works. We'll fix it, right? Console.log, I'll say backend server running at port 4000. Why? Because I want to make sure that whoever is executing this, even me, if I'm executing this after 2 semesters or something, you're working in now, you're into 1 now, 3.1 or 4.1, you want to show this project to somebody, you need to make sure you have the proper console.logs, right? So this is my server. Now, how do I run this? What is the first basic way of running this server.js? Any JS file in my computer, I can run it outside the computer, outside the browser, because I have Node installed. So I'll go and say node server.js. It's saying backend server running at port 4000. Done. Now, let me go back. Node server.js. It says backend server running at 4000. So what should I do? How do I check if the server is working or not? I'll go open my Thunder client, right? You see that new request? Close it. There, toggle it. I know I'm going a little fast, don't worry. Understand if possible. I'll share the code anyway, right? I'll say localhost colon 4000. Now, can you all tell me why am I getting error? Localhost 4000. My server is running, right? Server.js. But when I do localhost 4000, it says 404 not found. There's no file that is found. We didn't create the, what did we not write? There are no routes, guys. Server started, but did you tell it to wait at this gate one, front gate or back gate or wait, what to expect? We said nothing, you just wait. But so, here we go. How do we do that? Here, app.get, right? If you are using Swiggy Genie, what do? You send something. So that would be your post. You take something and go near the gate and wait for somebody to take it. If it is regular Swiggy, food order, you get. So you go wait at the gate, but you don't take a parcel with you. You just take whatever the guy is giving you, right? Very lame example, but I think it's easy to understand that way. So / maybe front gate. Now here, what do? In app or Express instance, you mention the method type first, right? Whether it's get or post. You mention front gate or back gate, meaning it is root folder or not, which root it is, / indicates. There is two things, everybody. When I say ROOT, when I write it as ROOT, it is root. When I say ROUT, I pronounce it as route. So you understand, okay? So the route is /, which happens to be the root route. And here, we all know there is always a request and response, REQ, RES. So here in this case, I'm supposed to just say hello to whoever, whether it is Swiggy, Uber, whoever, I first say hello, right? So this is that route. You say response.send, you response.send that, and then say reached root route. Okay, real quick. Done. Now, again, when I did a send, it's still not working. Any thoughts? I have the root, so 4000 and / is not working. Why? Because whatever code I have updated, it has to execute again. Because what did I say here? I said node. I did not say node mon. It's not monitoring the file at all. So what do I do now? I go back to my package.json. Here, so these things that I am doing, these things are things that you should be able to do in your sleep. Very simple. Say start, and here you say node mon, boss keep starting server.js every time there is a change. So monitor that. So now I go here, do a Control-C, CLS, and say npm start. The Ramu Kaka will go and check in the scripts. Oh, start means I have to start node mon, and I'm going to start that. There, backend server is port 4000, right? Now let's see. Reached root route. Everybody with me? So why am I doing it? Because you need to understand. When you see something, some route is not working, you must understand that you have to restart the server, right? You must understand that if there is no / route, it will not work, right? Now let's quickly go. So I said what again? Swiggy Genie, forget, it will give you something. Sorry, Swiggy, regular Swiggy, food order or Instamart. But Swiggy parcel or Genie or Uber parcel, you have to send something, right? So that would be your post. They're all the same, everybody. Meaning, Like I said, we don't have the database and anything yet. Okay? So I'm just copying and pasting just to make sure. Okay? Post, I'll say post check. Okay? Delete or del. You see, I have a different route, delete check. Done? Then put, I'll say /, right? I don't know why, check, put. Anyway, let me just comment this out for now. Again, we are looking at Express.js methods, right? These are all the methods. So reached root route, no. Reached post check. So it's not root. Delete check, reached delete check route. Reached put check. Done. As you can see here, every time I make any changes, app.delete is app.del. Just deprecated. Ignore that part for now, please. But understand that server is getting restarted, right? So I have delete. Oh, there is no del, right? Delete. That's what it is saying. Now we are good. So we are learning Express.js endpoints as we are looking at the methods. So these are all the methods that are there. Done. Now if I go here, get is working fine, right? I must remember post check, delete check, check, right? Let me just try that. Post check. I'll get an error because it is not. Everybody please try to understand, look at the screen. Thunder client gives us an option of what type of request it is, right? So I have to say post here and check post check. Send reached post check route. Okay, let me increase the size there. Same thing with put check, but I think I gave it as the name as check put, right? So I do a send reached check put. You see status code 200. Put, then I have delete. So like I said earlier, delete check route. When you are working for a company, there will be a different front-end team, there will be a different back-end team. You will be just told to work on the endpoints. So the front-end is still not ready. How do you work? You use Postman or Thunder client like this and create all the routes and check, test them like this. Because if there is no front-end, how would you get the request and how do you follow through the whole process? This is how you follow. So you have to just select the type of method here and then in general these are called CRUD operations. C-R-U-D, CRUD. Create, read, update, delete. If somebody says create a simple Express.js application that performs some CRUD operations on a collection in Atlas database, you should be able to do that like that in half hour. Very simple. All the operations, right? Now let's go here. Now, can I have your attention? I'll share this file with you and you'll have 1 to 2 minutes to work on it. Don't worry. There's one interesting thing, please. Everybody tends to think that if it is / and get, I cannot have another route or another method on the same route. Look at it carefully. I have the same /, but I have a post. Many people tend to think that this is not possible. It is possible. It is a little tricky and confusing in some cases, but when you are like, 10 years into the whole coding or 5 years or these days maybe 2 years into coding working for a company, then your team lead might just tell you, just create one route. It gets it when I ask it to get. When I send a post, it should store. You see what I am saying? Login route takes username and password. If the user exists, it will say exists and get back to you with a positive thing. If user is not there, or if it's a post request, forget about user not there, I'm sorry, I stand corrected. If it's a post request on the same login route, you should be able to store. Then what will you do? You'll create like the same route, 2 different methods. Done? So here, now I go, I'll show you what I mean. Get 4000, send, you see, it says reached root route. But the same route, if I do a post, reached route. Now, what did we understand with this? Is it not possible to you do all this using a core Node.js project without using Express.js? It is possible. But Express.js makes our life really easy by taking care of all these things that have to be done before, and then the core code that is required to talk to the database, to insert into, all that we can use, we can work on. But you don't have to worry too much about the type of the method and all that. It makes everything easy for us. Done? Okay. Now, these are all the methods that are available. Okay? Are you all with me? How many of you understood this? Please raise your hand. How many of you want me to repeat this one more time, real quick? Okay, there are a few more hands that are saying repeat. So, Express.js is used to talk to the backend, not directly, we'll be using another file, but this is your backend part. So, it's using Express.js module, we can create our own server. Express.js makes our lives easy by giving an option for us to use inbuilt methods. So, it has get, post, update, delete, all these it has. So, we can use those, and inside those methods, we can write code to talk to the database. Now, what are these called? All these methods are called Express.js methods, but apart from that, all these methods are also called endpoints, right? Because that is the endpoint where your front end is going to touch your backend code, okay? There's also, these are all called CRUD operations. If you're doing creating and reading, updating and deleting, these are all, whatever you're doing inside the Express.js, these are all called CRUD operations. CRUD is a terminology that is used across technical stacks and across languages. Perform CRUD operations on an Oracle database, perform CRUD operation on a MySQL database, perform CRUD operations using Express.js on a MongoDB. You see, CRUD. Now, endpoints, CRUD operational, there's one more name, one more abbreviation called RESTful API. Please understand, if somebody asks you, create REST API, do not panic. It is the same thing. REST is the original protocol that was used for two systems to talk to each other. Okay? You'll have it in your regular academia, the concept as such, but there are two main types of protocol when two systems are talking to each other. One is REST and one is SOAP, S-O-A-P. We used to use SOAP in olden days. Okay? It's a simple object-based protocol. Object-as protocol. It's very simple. But anyway, we don't use that because there we use XML and all for transfer. In REST, it's usually JSON. Okay? What is REST full form? Representational State Transfer Protocol. R-E-S-T. REST. Representational State Transfer. Now, you must be thinking, what is a big name? Representational State. That is how it originated. Everybody started using it, the same language. But basically, creating API endpoints for all the CRUD operations and all. Okay? I'm keeping it really simple for you guys because you've just started learning. I don't want to go into too detail, but if you want to learn, please make a note of what is REST and what is SOAP, S-O-A-P. Okay? Simple object access protocol, I think. So, React root post method, done. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly put it in the course material section for 1 minute only, please. And I'll give you 1 minute to get it working. Okay? Be ready. Meanwhile, create a project and keep it ready. Express.js project. You all know how to create, right? Day 16, the steps that I gave you earlier. I'm going to upload course material. I think we need some clarity on that methods. We'll come to that. Let me just wrap this up. So, everybody, we looked at all this, right? How many of you got it working, please? The file that I shared in course material? 1. Anybody getting any errors? Module not found error. How many of you got module not found? There. So what do? npm I express. Because this requires express. You see? I gave you only server.js file. I did not give you the complete project. So you still have to do npm I or npm init and then get the file. Then in the package.json, whichever folder is there, whichever folder has a package.json, you go and you say npm. What do you do? npm I express. So it installs express. Because look at this, guys. I'm only giving you the core file. But this file requires express dependency. Right? So what are the... This one, recreate this. create J16 folder, create express methods folder, cmd, npm init, open the folder in VS Code, right? Start working, now copy over server.js that I shared, then do npm I express, right? These are the steps that you have to perform to get it working. By now I thought you would know, that's why I did not share the complete folder. Okay, npm not capital I please, small I. Done? Okay, so here is my file. Now I'm going to create one more. Why don't I just do Ctrl AC and create a new one? Okay. And I'll rename this, or let me just Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and I'll rename this file as server methods. Okay, so when I share today's code, all the files from today's code, server methods, so you'll have that. Now let us work on server.js. Okay. Now get rid of all these, keep it really simple. This is my server.js again. A plain server.js / reach root route, this is done. And then a post. Everybody, post method, 99.99% of the times, it gets some information from the front end, takes that information and works on that information, whether to store in database or do whatever, right? So when you are registering, when somebody is sending a contact us form that they submitted on the front end, you have to take all the information stored somewhere, send an email, all that. For anything which requires the front end to send some information, a whole lot of information, like sir mentioned earlier, in get you'll see in the URL. In post you will not. So for sending that kind of information we use post. But where do you read that information? It is coming along with the request, everybody. So the request will have that. So what I'm going to do now is look at the screen carefully, please. I'm going to go to new request here, right? First of all, let me make sure to see if server is running. Okay, it's running. I still have my server.js. I'll go to new request and do a simple get, send. It said reach route. So this is working fine. Now this one, post, that is what I should see, right? For /. Let me make it clear, post, or let's say register or something. Okay, so this is a register and on which I'm calling a post method there. Now if I go here and say / register and do a post, right, and do a send, reached root or post method route, I'm sorry, let me remove root, reached, everybody, we are trying to see how post works, okay? In post, this is, but then, where am I sending the information along with the request? I'm not sending anything, right? I would like to. So here I go to the body tab, look at it carefully. In body tag, I'm going to write a JSON function or JSON. You see that their name, I'll say Amy, comma, email, right? amy@gmail.com, done. So I have this one here, name. This is the JSON that the front end is sending the back end. So I have my body, in that I'm writing in this format. Now please explore all these tabs. There is a form also where you can send from here and here. You can say name, key value pair. But I prefer using JSON because that's how we usually get it from the front end. So JSON format, I have this. Now I'm saying send. Understand carefully. I'm sending data along with my request to my Express.js server. This Express.js server is sending a response, but let me try to read that. So how do I do that? First, let me check a console. In console, I'll just say, boss, with request, am I getting something? Request.body. Because that is where I wrote. In the request body, I wrote this data. So I have to read it, right, to store it in the database. So first say, can you please read it? And look at what happens. I said console.log, so I will not see in this screen. Many people expect it here. This is the response, please. Whatever you're writing in the response will be seen here. What you write in the, whatever you say console.log will be displayed here wherever the server is running. So when I say send, is something getting displayed here? Can you all look at the screen, please? 1 minute, look at the screen. What do you see at the bottom? You know what? Let me do a CLS. I see people craning their necks, stretching. So backend server is running. One last time, I'll do a send. It says reached post method route, but it says undefined. So whatever I'm sending with the request is not getting used by is not being accessible here. Why? Now this is where a whole bunch of methods of express come handy. These are called, please remember carefully, these are called express middleware functions. Middleware. Because before you go to the request and response and the routes, there are certain operations that you have to perform, and those are called middleware. So one of the middleware things that we are going to look at two today, one of them is this. What is it? Please look at it carefully. I have seen many people struggle. They write all the code in route. They go to the database, they write everything, right? But they are not able to read from the request. Why? Because you did not write the middleware function where you said express.json. So you are categorically mentioning, saying boss app use express.json, meaning whatever request you are getting, convert that into JSON format and keep it ready, and then you can go to the routes. Please remember, it goes in a linear sequential way. You cannot write app.use at the bottom here before listening to the server. It has to be at the top before all these routes and everything, right? So now let me try this. I've saved it, right? Server also restarted, right? Now let me see again. If it doesn't work, we'll fix it. There's nothing to panic, right? I do a send. Here you will not see anything because where am I printing? Console.log. You see that? Name, Amy, email. So now my Express server is able to listen or is able to read the information that the request is sending to it. Are we all clear? Let me repeat once again. In the last session or in the last half hour before this, we looked at different methods, get, post, all these. We haven't still started talking to the back end or to anything. We just talked about whether to meet at the front gate or at the back gate. If it is front gate, if it is Swiggy Genie, should I send the parcel, which is post? If it is Swiggy Instamart, should I receive the parcel, which is get? And if there is an exchange, you know what I'm saying? Many other methods. Now then we came, then I told you, sending a request, getting the request, sending the response is okay. But how do I read anything from the request? So I told you that to read anything from the request, we send it using Thunderclient if you want to test it, because there is no front end yet. I can send it like that, I said. I showed you how, even though I'm sending it here, the request.body printed undefined. It printed undefined because I did not categorically tell Express to use JSON format or parse. Use appropriate words, please. I did not parse the request.body. So here, I'm asking it to parse whatever you're getting into JSON format. Because I said parse, now when I did console.log request.body, I am able to see it. So what will I do now? Right? I'll use this info, okay, and fetch data, fetch or store this data in DB. This will come to later. All understood? The endpoint, the data is here. Convert that data into a format you understand and take this data and store it in the backend. This part we are not done yet, but now we have to make sure. So this is very, very important. If the interviewer says that in request.body I'm getting undefined, then you say you add a middleware function which is app.use and do an express.json so it parses and keeps it ready. How many of you are clear about this, please? Please raise your hand. I see few here, few there. I see rest of them are busy typing the code. Don't worry, I'll share this code. So this is Express middleware, right? So I'll just leave it like that. Now, the other very important and interesting thing is about one more middleware function, one more middleware thing called static. Everybody, when you are working on the backend side, right, you will not be fetching HTML files. That is ruled out. But you will still need some files. Let's say your mentor or whoever said, SIREESHA, 1 means NGIT, 2 means KMIT, 3 means KMEC. Have it written somewhere or some sort of code like that, 6 to 7 lines of code. You don't want to go to the database, but you want that file on the backend side, right? So what will you do ideally? Now here is where, because we have less time, I'm going to go and open up a file and explain it to you. Everybody, we are now looking at Express's middleware functions. We have just begun understanding Express methods. Now in the middleware functions, I showed how you do app.use and say. Same thing, one more thing is app.use express.static. Okay, what is this static? Static is a very, very important concept in Express.js. What does it do? It makes a folder static. Means, let's say for example, you have 3 to 4 files that you need in the backend. Again, remember, this is not your database. You might need some .props, .json file with some sort of information, some specific information that you need, right? You don't want to put it in your code. It's a file that you have to read from. Where do you put that file? You must be thinking, man, we read the file system, no? FS. We'll just put the file in one of the folders and read it. Guys, opening file system in your backend is opening a can of worms. Why? Because now you have exposed the file system of your server. So, we do not expose the file system of the server always. I showed you initially just for you to understand. But we create what is called as a static folder, put everything in that static folder, and whenever my backend needs any file or anything like that, gets it from here. Mind you, I'm not talking about data, meaning I'm not talking about fetching data from the database and all. Some random files that your database or your backend might need, you can store them in this folder. Static is also another interesting concept. The questions that interviewers might ask is something like this. They might say that I have a file which has 3 to 4 names or roles, and I want those roles to be accessible inside my backend. It cannot be in the front end, it cannot be in the database. I want these roles to be accessed in the backend code, in the Express.js code. Where do I put this file? Then you must say that you create that file, put it in a folder and make that a static folder. I'll show you how we can do that. Actually, I think I'll just open up the code and show you. Meanwhile, I'll just share this one server.js. How do I say, if I save it as is? Okay, hold on please. Am I connected to internet? Give me 1 minute. Just connect to KMIT Audi. Okay. Just say upload material to the same thing. This one, it's a very simple one, Express.js, middleware, right? What was that? JSON. I'll just say JSON, you understand what I'm trying to say, right? Now, what are the files? We already did 1045. Make sure to comment out that express.app.use and then do the perform the check and then uncomment it and check. You'll see it prints undefined when it is commented, and when it is there, it will display as defined. So this is one. Give me 1 minute, please. Take 1 minute and get that working. Meanwhile, I'll get the next thing ready. So I was talking about the middleware functions, right? So there is another thing that's very important for all of you to know. Can I have your attention, please? So whenever you're working on a backend or whenever you're working in the real world, there are usually logging systems that log all the information. Meaning, a request came from so and so for this, that will be logged into a .log file. You must also have seen in many cases, there are log files that constantly the code keeps writing to. So that if something happens, they can go and check the log to see what went wrong and where, right? Also, in your current scenario also, in the current expression tracker project, in one of the projects, there is a scenario where you have to insert into the database, right? You have to work on something, track the expression, go hit the Hugging Face API, get the information, get the response, and store it in the database. So when the front end is hitting the endpoint not only talks to Hugging Face API and gets response, but stores that response in the database. So there are two things that are happening. Again, I repeat, we are talking about Express.js's middleware functions and how the middleware works. We looked at one, which is the app.use one, which is express.json. There's one more thing called next, okay? And there is static. I'll look very quickly at next. What is this next? Usually what happens, whenever some front end tries to talk to the back end, they want to make a log. So for situations like that, and for situations where you want to work on one function and go and perform one more operation, next, right? So in those situations, you can use this next keyword and make sure that Express, once it is working on one block of code, goes to the second. Let me show you. I think it will be easy to understand if I show you exactly what I mean, right? So let us go to VS Code. You see this, everybody? Same Express. Kindly look at the screen. I hope everybody is able to look at the screen. Express, you know. Getting app, you know. This part, you know, app.get. Okay? So the scenario is, you are being asked that I want to write something to a log file each time someone touches or hits the backend. So every time there is a forward slash or any other route that is being called, the root, the users or faculty or any route that I created here, right? Before this route is being touched, I want to make a log. So how do I do that? This one, please. So recres, and your third parameter is next. So you say console.log, first block, and you simply write code like request originated. You can get a lot of information and print it here, but for now I'll just say request originated, and now I'll say next. So what will happen? Every time my backend is hit, it first goes to this block, and because I said next, then it will go to this one. So every time any route is touched, right? First this block. So you see the front end, and then even before the route is touched, I'm performing an operation. So this is also another middleware thing, right? So let me go and show this. So how do I add this now? I'll just go server middleware -next, right? I could change the script, but let me just do a Node.js because we have one more thing to worry about. So node, right? What was that? Server, not methods, server middleware next. So now it is running. Look at this, please. I have the server running. I'll go to new request, 4000, right? What do I have here? Just get on route, root route. So 4000, I'll say get. You must be thinking, but ma'am, you are leaving everything, all the code here, all the JSON and everything. It doesn't matter. Even though you're using get, it doesn't care what you're sending along with the request. Nobody's reading it, right? So I'll just leave it there. You see that? Reached root route get method. But look at the console. Reached route, second block. Before that, first block, request originated. Guys, I know I'm going a little fast, but you have the recording. Please go over again. There are different scenarios for backend. One scenario is for the same route you want to get and post. One scenario you have get, post, put, update, delete, all that, right? Another scenario is where you want to make a note in somewhere, in some log file or something before any of the requests. So you need a middleware. So for that we have next, okay? The other scenario earlier was when you are reading from the request.body, it's not able to read because it needs to be converted into request.json. So we did app.use, rec.json or express.json, and then we got it working. Now here, so when somebody gives a scenario where they say, what do I do if I want a particular method to be executed each time you hit the backend? Then you say, the third parameter next can be used, and you do whatever you want to do, and then pass it on. Say next, then it will go to the next one. This is one of the important things, please. Again, these are all scenario-based things that I'm telling you, so please try to understand, right? The next one is static. Okay. Now I'm going to share this file with you. I need you to get it up and running. First and foremost, again everybody, all the functions in most cases are use again, app.use. You see this express dot that express? I said static. I would have typed this or built this code, but we don't have that kind of time. So express.static, you see that? Again, static is to make a folder accessible directly, right? Meaning, let's say I'm working on users and I'm working on some routes. You are working on faculty routes, hundreds of routes. I need one abc.json file. You need some, faculty.json or some file you need for your thing, for your coding. All these files, if you put in different folders, right, and use file system, fs dot, read file and all that, it's going to open up a Pandora box for somebody who's trying to get into your system. So what do? You create one folder, right? Everybody kindly look at the screen, focus on line 5 please. What do? You say app.use, whenever I say public, fetch it from the public folder. Where is that public folder? I have to create that public folder, right? So I'll put all my files in this one. Whatever roles or whatever it is, I'll put them here, and then I'll mention anytime I say public, you must get it from. Now remember, this is the actual folder name and this is the path, okay? Give me 1 second. Let me get the file for you. So in my public folder, let me just copy these two over. See that? So what did I do this time around? I created an array, username and password, Okay, let's say Hugging Face token or something like that. If you want, you can put it, but not sensitive, please. Hugging Face token goes into .env file. I take that back, but any other not so sensitive information, you can put it here in the public folder and access it. How do you access it? Let me show you again. Let's go back. Server middleware and static. Here, you say app.use, whatever link you want to call it, express.static, and you path.join. This is the directory name, please, the current directory name. You are saying, please go, whenever somebody says public, go to the public folder and give access to all files. Look at what I did now. I said fetch public and users.json. So anytime I want that file, I'll fetch it like that. I don't have to use the file system. Kindly note, earlier and couple of weeks ago, whenever we want to read a file, we did fs.this, fs.that. We exposed our whole file system. That is not how it works in real world. In real world, if there are some small files that you want to access, right? You create a folder, give it a name. I gave it name as public. You can give it any name. And then at the top, mention express.static, path.join, just to get the complete path, and public. Now what happens? Every time I want to access it, I can directly, this is next, sorry. I can directly go and say localhost 4000 public users.json, localhost 4000, like that. I can, you see, I'm not doing the fs.read file and all. I'm directly saying fetch, right?
Now here we are writing, I think students should have asked this. Here we are writing HTTP localhost 4000 / public user JSON. So doesn't, because it is internally, so doesn't it create a network overload to access internal files? So that is the question.
No, it will not, sir. So look at this. We will have multiple routers from any router. Right now, the way they are working on it, there's just one file, server.js. But when we will be working on bigger projects, there will be one route which will be on faculty, one route which will be on users, so there will be different routes, meaning this /users could be another file called users.js, where we'll have all of them. So from all these 15 different files, you want to access this one JSON file or two other JSON files, you can directly access them using the public folder instead of opening up your file system. Everybody understood? Let me rephrase.
So, if you have any questions, please, because I had a question and I directly asked her, right? So you don't hesitate. Only mic will not be there, but you can raise your hand so I can run towards you to hand over the mic. Right? Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So everyone, right now we have /users and colon name and whatever. But in real world, there are at least 15 different routes per user type or per, see, let's say accounts department, admin department. So you have a website that has accounts department, admin department, HR department. All these departments have different information that needs to be brought from a database. So in your middleware here, meaning in your Express.js here, you'll have endpoints for all of them. Will you have all 40 of them together? No. We'll have separate files and then get those here, import them. So in scenarios like that, instead of reading the file, your files are in different locations, so using the file system and all, you can just use this public, right? Make that as a static, and then anywhere you need that file, you can access it using that, using the public, okay? Instead of opening up the file system. I'll share these files so you can look at it and understand middleware static, right? First, let me explain it, okay? I'll get it working on my side. So as you can see, in my public folder, I put a users.json file. Anybody who understands BBT, watches, might understand this. Username is Sheldon and password is Mima, and then username is Penny and password is Bond007. I just have some random users there. So here, I want to access this file and read these values, let's say. How do I do that? So, fetch is something that we have done using the weather API time, and you all know that fetch works, right? Important thing to remember, you put an await in front of it, even if it's your local system, await, and then async in front of records. So I'm getting that users.json, storing it in the response, RESP object. You see, this is just response, not this response, please. Whatever response, whatever data I got, I put it there and said, get it in JSON format, and I console.logged it, and I'm sending it along with the this response. I repeat, I am reading a file, getting the data, writing it to the response and sending it back. Very simple. So where is this file residing? For now, it is residing in my public folder, right? Ideally, it will be the JSON format and all the JSON information. Our collections and all will be in MongoDB, but right now they are here. Now the next one is another interesting thing.
Can we have exercise?
Can we have exercise now? I'll share these files, this one last method. Everybody, I'll open up an exercise, but one last thing. So sometimes you want to get the users, but not only users, you want to get a particular user. So you can directly put a colon name like that there. This can be read using request.params. Like we did request.body, you can read whatever in the URL. I'll explain this again in the next class. For now, take this code please and get it working. Before I share it with you, let me get it working myself, right? So I'll do a Control C. Remember, I did not change the package.json. So server, that's why I'm typing it here. Node space, server middleware, next no. Static. So it is running. So how do I check it? First, let me check with forward slash. It should say reached route route, right? So forward slash send reached route route. Next is what? Register. No, I'm sorry. Next is what? Users. So if I say users, it should fetch all the users and display. Is it a get or post? It is get. I go here, say send. I got all the users. Now, the other thing is on the users, if I pass a name, it should give me the details about that person. So here, remember please, in your route you will have a colon. Look at it carefully. But when you are passing here, you don't have a colon. You just type it up like that. It is Sheldon. So I do SEHL. Where is that? There. Done. One user. I repeat, this is an example of how you can have static files, a folder dedicated just for static files. We did that at the top. I used that public, got my static file, got the data, wrote it to the response and sent it. And I used the same information, did the same thing, but I got only for a specific user by passing the name like that. You'll see this. Remember our JavaScript days? I told you find, map, these are very important. So I did on the data I said find whatever you are getting in the URL, this name, right? Request dot params dot name. If it is equals to this element, meaning it is routing through, iterating through all of them. If it is done, then find will return that, I'll get that, and now I'm sending that information into the response. Did not understand? 1 minute again. This you understood, right? Users part, I'm just reading from a users.json file, converting that into a JSON format, sending it along with the response. What I'm saying is, there's one more simpler way where you do a colon, give whatever you want to send, and you can compare that or check with the data that you have. The data is the complete 2-3 files that I have, 2-3 documents. I'm just checking and saying, the moment you find something where whatever I got here is matching with whatever is with it, just return. This is a little tricky. You'll understand when you practice it, right? You are getting from the request, checking that value, taking that value, checking with the value that you received from the JSON file and seeing if it is there, then send that object. This LM, what is this LM please? This is this one document. That's one object there. That is your LM. So it's going to check for each LM. It's going to iterate through, check for each LM. If the uname matches with whatever is there here that is being sent, you see here, lm.uname double equals params.name. Done. I'm sharing these files and I'll open the exercise. Take 5 and be prepared, please.
Yeah, this exercise is not graded. This is for your practice, and let us know how many. Please submit so that we will know how many of you are understanding. The graded exercise will be in the next session. You will be given another scenario where you need to figure it out. Whatever you have learned today, implement that on Wednesday, right? This is not graded. It is just only for your understanding purpose. Okay? Yeah, go ahead.
In about 1 or 2 minutes, we'll open up an exercise. You can work on that. It's going to be a very simple one. You have nothing to worry. Like Sir said, it's not going to be graded. It's just for us to know if you understood it well. Okay, give me 2 minutes. All right, everybody. You should see an exercise. Give me 1 minute. It is the same exercise it is the same activity that we did in class, all the methods, right? Use the same file. Let me just open it up for you. Express.js methods. Okay. Exactly the same thing that I showed you. All the methods, app.get, post, put, delete, all that we did in class. Please try and get it working.